It's time for our content today, chat. So, this is obviously a presentation about VTubing myths versus realities. This is a PowerPoint presentation presented from my point of view, because everybody's experience of the industry is going to be different to a certain extent, okay? And before we get into this, chat, I want to give you the breakdown of the presentation. There will be a statement that I will present to all of you. Chat, you guys will answer with a yes, no to the question of, is this statement a myth? Yes, it is a myth. No, it's not a myth. I will then explain why with the applicable subcategories of myth, reality, harsh reality, and also I may provide alternatives and or solutions. FYI, there are currently curveball statements with curveball answers. And again, this is POV from me, my point of view. And there are always going to be outliers. There is nothing that is guaranteed or set in stone, especially in this industry. This just happens to be the quote-unquote majority that I have personally witnessed myself. You know, one myth or reality is every VTuber is using a voice changer because they're all secretly big burly men. No comment. Disclaimer, no matter what I say, you can choose to do whatever the hell you want, honestly. This is your journey. But understand that I state what I state because I've seen a lot of people come and go, and I've been streaming for over 5 years now, and VTubing, that needs to say 2+ years, not 3+ years. The intent of the stream is not to dissuade, discourage, or scare people away from VTubing if they really want to do it. It's more so to help you stop complicating the damn process and help you prepare for what you can actually do and what you're actually getting into if you intend to do this for the long haul like me. All right, chat, here's the first statement. I need a model in order to start VTubing. Is this a myth? Yes or no? I need a model in order to start VTubing. Yes, myth. No, not myth. All right, chat, I'm gonna piss some people off with this one. Chat, answer. If some of you are long haulers here, you should know this. The answer is that this statement is a fucking myth. The reality. Do you have a PC that can stream? Do you have a mic that works? Do you have content in mind that you'd like to stream? Perhaps a game you'd like to stream? Then just start friggin' streaming! Harsh reality, chat. Models are incredibly expensive. Incredibly expensive. My model, when I first paid for it alone, was over $3,000. $3,000, chat. My re-rig of my model that I have now, just FYI, was even more expensive than my original model, chat. So times that by 2, and that's not even how much I spent, chat. Do not go investing thousands of dollars into something you have no idea if you even will genuinely like doing it. So my advice to you, which we'll get to in a bit, debuts are also incredibly expensive, and there's another asterisk to that as well, because there's emotes, overlays, assets, Twitch panels, debut trailer, etc., etc. What are the alternatives and some solutions? Let me tell you. Once you figure out that you genuinely like streaming, you can start doing things like investing in a pay-to-use model, temporary, and you basically just use it as a temporary model until you get yours. The benefit of getting a pay-to-use model is you're able to test the software as a user with your hardware, aka your PC. Use a PNG model. You can get a custom PNG model that isn't even that expensive in comparison to a real model, and it can be your brand, your custom image, and it can kind of set you apart and get you used to VTubing in terms of like using hotkeys and streams and stream deck keys and stuff like that. Chat, here's the next statement. I need good PC equipment to stream. Is this a myth? Yes or no? My answer, depends. Chat, this is a curveball question. And my answer is it depends. Why? Let me tell you some of these myth statements, okay? I need an expensive, top-of-the-line computer to stream. That's a myth. I need the best audio setup in order to stream. That's a myth. I need the best tracking camera to start streaming as a VTuber. That's a myth. Reality, aka solutions. You need a good enough computer that is reliable to stream OBS plus the VTubing software of choice plus the game/content of choice, okay? So if you're out here trying to play AAA games with hyper-realistic graphics, with like the most intense graphics at the highest setting, and VTube Studio and OBS, you're gonna have a really, 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 really good fucking top-of-the-line computer. But if all you're really gonna wanna do is just have OBS and VTube Studio open, and you're just gonna talk to your community, or you're gonna use some sort of face cam, hand cam situation for art or for tarot, or you're just gonna use the internet, then you really don't need a top-of-the-line computer, because you don't need that kind of equipment to run those things. Also, USB microphones have come a long way. They're probably around $100, if not a little below or a little more. So you can invest in a USB microphone and you'd be rather fine. Also, a webcam is fine for getting your feet wet or as a temporary solution before you invest big monies into actual tracking software, because I believe the best tracking software is an iPhone, because iPhone's facial front camera recognition is the best. But not everybody can afford an iPhone if they don't have an iPhone already, so don't feel the need to do that. Also, hell, you can do you can skip the cost of a webcam entirely, which is what I basically did, because I just had a PNG when I first started, so I didn't have to pay or worry for a webcam. I will say though, you do unfortunately need reliably strong internet to stream, and that is honestly a big hurdle for a lot of people, because at least in the States, we are kind of stuck to whatever 2 to 3 ISPs are in our residential area because of some shitty laws that they put in, and I think in like 1960s or 70s or some like long ass time ago, maybe 80s, that limit the amount of competition per area. So if we got rid of that rule in the United States, ISPs would be everywhere, and ISPs would be a lot more reliable and offer higher speeds for lower prices. But you know us, capitalism, ha ha ha, yay. Harsh reality in regards to PC equipment. This is what to expect at a minimum if you know from experience that you're in it for the long haul. Computers that can handle VTubing plus streaming are expensive no matter what, because you do need a good GPU, you do need a good setup for your goddamn computer, a good CPU, and it's expensive. I wish I would seriously consider investing at least $1,600 into a custom build PC. And this is with the caveat that you're going to be more like me, who's not necessarily going to be playing like Apex. If you're playing like AAA games that require the best equipment, you're going to have to be spending more money. But I've at least invested $1,600 into my current build. But just also know that that's going to probably last you 2.5 years to 3 years, and you're going to need another build soon. I haven't really looked at the pre-built market, but as far as I recall, the last time I was looking at pre-builds, they just aren't that good. They charge you a lot more money because they say, oh my god, we have this really good CPU, but then you look at the rest of it and the rest of it's kind of poo-poo. Or the pre-built PC is like, oh my god, look at me, I have this GPU. But then it's like, the rest of the PC is awful. So just, you know, don't get a pre-built PC, please, for the love of God. Get somebody to build, get somebody that you can trust, whether you have to pay them or not, to build you the custom PC. There are stores that will do that for you. You just have to go Googling and looking for them. Also, a good mic requires an audio mixer, chat. All right, chat, here's our next statement. Consistency is king, consistency is queen, consistency is the royal key. Chat, I'm very proud of you. The answer is that this is a reality. Again, we have an asterisk here, so let me share case with you some of these myth statements, okay? Consistency only applies to starting streams at the same time and day each week. Myth. That's a myth. So the reason why consistency goes beyond just starting your stream every single time you schedule your streams to be, consistency is so much more than that. Consistency goes beyond that. And let me just break it down for you. Consistency goes beyond starting your stream off at the same time every day of every week that you plan on streaming. Consistency in your streams goes beyond showing up regularly. What vibes should people expect when they enter your stream? What sense of humor is appropriate for the community? What games/genres are you going to play? What content is going to be provided? These are all things that people are going to be really curious about. And if you offer inconsistency in these things, people may not be inclined to come back. All right, chat. Harsh reality. Finding consistency in who you are as a streamer, what your brand is, and what your content will be is something you may not figure out until you've streamed for quite some time and pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone. Maevyn as an example, I'm using myself as an example here. It took me a while to enter into the just category consistency or consistently. I think I looked at my streaming history, chat, from when I started in 2020. I think I only started putting myself into just chatting once in 2020 and then maybe once in 2021, and then towards the end when I got closer and closer to being a VTuber, I was more happy about it and more brave about it. But I was really freaking nervous about being in the just chatting category, especially consistently. And then, for those of you who are wondering, okay, Maevyn, well, just chatting, that's a huge aspect about your brand and who you are and what you provide as a streamer. But what about tarot? It literally took me 2 years. Yeah, it was two plus years. It was in 2022 May. That was my first tarot stream. And I need everybody to understand that I was scared shitless to do tarot. I had a very small community, like sub double digits, and I was really worried that I would go live, offer tarot card readings, and nobody would join the queue. That was my biggest fear, that I would be like, hey guys, I'm gonna read your tarot cards for free. Just join the queue and I'll read for you. And that nobody would join the queue, so that I would just sit there with the cards in my hand, just waiting for somebody to ask me for a tarot card reading, and nobody would want one. But chat, to the dismay of my brainworms were wrong, and people wanted readings. And it wasn't like I started doing tarot every week. It was more so like I did tarot once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And then eventually I started garnering more reputation for tarot. So then I started doing it once almost every week. And I don't, unfortunately, do tarot once a week now, but I used to be rather good about doing it once a week, and maybe one day we'll get back to that, but we're doing other things with tarot. So tarot is still part of my brand. And chat, it took me even longer to integrate astrology into my stream than it did tarot, and then it did just chatting. But how many of y'all know me as somebody who talks about astrology? All right, how do we develop consistency? Let me give you some solutions/alternatives. Stream a lot. Asterisks. You won't figure out what you want to do if you're daydreaming about doing it instead of actually doing it. So go do it. Push yourself out of your comfort zone with an asterisk. You won't know what you like or dislikes. If you don't know if you like something or dislike it if you don't give it a try. You won't know how successful the idea is until you try. And you won't know how your community will respond to it until you try. Don't just try it once. Consistency is the royal key. Chat, that concludes my VTubing myths versus realities for tonight's presentation. This is the end for now, question mark? because there are so many more statements that we can cover, but there's so little time that I have in my stream. And we started earlier than I anticipated, and we just hit 3 hours, which is usually the point in which I start getting tired. So tune in next time, maybe. Anyways, good night, babies! I hope you sleep well. And remember that no matter how dark the universe may seem, there's always light to be found within. So be gentle with yourself, because life is hard and life can be full of shit. But I promise you, there are greater things to come and there are better things to come. So do not give up, because you might be on the precipice of good things. Best of luck, babies! Goodbye!